In Mundus, conflict and disparity are what bring change, and change is the most sacred of the 11 forces. Change is the force without focus or origin. The wisdom of the Sigic order stems from its age. This monastic group, devoted to the old ways, can be traced back to the times of the early Aldmer, in the Malefic era. However, the subject of today's video is even older. He was born before the realm of Mundus found order and balance. This story comes from the Dawn era, when the mortal world was more like a fever dream than a reality. Change may well be the most sacred force, but as we will soon discover, change is born of hope, and hope is the most powerful tool there is. This tool, in the right hands, can topple empires, behead kings, even alter the fate of an entire realm. What's especially powerful about this tool is that it can be harnessed by anyone at all. Even the lowliest beggar can bring about great change, should he discover the gift of hope. There was a time in the realm of Mundus, on the planet Nirn, when the histories could not be relied upon. This Dawn era saw living gods wander the land, and Nirn was gripped by ruthless tyrants. On the mysterious continent of Lyg, the foul sea beasts called dregs ruled with iron claws, soon holding dominion over the entirety of Mundus. Each tyrant's ambition was more insatiable than the last, and the Dreg Kings spilled torrents of blood in brutal border wars. Desperate to expand their individual influence, vying for control of the 19 and 9 and 9 oceans. When territory passed from one despot to the next, it was marked by red tides, for the sea was tainted by the blood of the fallen. It would be impossible for me, a mere human daedrologist of the 4th era, to give a historically accurate depiction of what happened during these tumultuous times. But to me, existence for any living thing during this time, with the exception of the Dreg, would be hell, pure unbridled chaos. The relentless crustaceans were not benevolent leaders, and no one dared to challenge them. If they were to try, the effort would be hopeless, like fighting in a dream, in a torpid malaise. And that sums up what Nirn was like during the Dawn era, hopeless. The Magna Gi, Magnus's children, knew that something had to be done. They had helped their father, the god of magic, construct this magnificent realm, but they could not depart for Aetherius without adding some new element to this unbalanced situation. They needed a great equalizer, and they soon pinpointed what was missing. They knew the mortal realm was in dire need of hope, and what better way to achieve hope than by creating a whole new deity, one who would serve as the physical incarnation of hope. And so, the Magna Gi convened deep within the Bowels of Lyg, beneath the home of the Dreg Slaver kings, and they set about creating a god of hope. Though they came from diverse waters, each of the Magna Gi shared a sole purpose, to artifice a prince of good, spinning his likeness in random swath, and imbuing him with Oblivion's most precious and scarce asset, hope. Only despite their skill and their meticulous planning, this plan would go horribly wrong. The Magna Gi would unleash a being that thrives on chaos, a being that cares only for rousing unrest. The mortal realm would now learn the true destructive power of hope, change, and ambition. Hey guys, it's Drew the Daedrologist here, and welcome back to Fudge Muppet. If you've been following my series on the Daedra, you're probably well aware that there is one incredibly influential prince I've neglected to cover in a dedicated video. This prince is constantly embroiled in mortal affairs, but unlike most of his peers, he isn't interested in mischief or cruelty. His motivations are much more dangerous to mortal civilization. This prince capitalizes on the nature of mortals, targeting their predictable desires for power. He takes from the prosperous and gives to the downtrodden, destroying public order and flipping the system on its head. And then, when the new elite emerges and the new lower class begins to rue their misfortune, well, the cycle begins again. Behold, the Daedric Prince of Revolution, Mehrunes Dagon. When I will walk the earth again, the faithful among you shall receive your reward, to be set above all other mortals forever. As for the rest, the weak shall be winnowed, the timid shall be cast down, the mighty shall tremble at my feet and pray for pardon. When the Magna Gi completed their creation, they saw their folly, but it was done, and Dagon was born. Mehrunes Dagon, filled to bursting with the essence of hope, saw opportunities abound in the still teeming mortal realm. His hope took the form of destruction. Dagon rallied his red legions, and rebellion formed from the coalescence of all his hopeful followers. With the mob at his back, Dagon could not be stopped. The towers of Chimera of Desolation were torn from their foundations, and the Templars of the upstart were slaughtered, and blood fell like dew from the upper wards down to the lowest pits, where the slaves with maniacal faces took chains and teeth to their jailers, and all hope was brush fire. Suns were riven as Dagon's red legions moved from Lyg to the hinterlands, crushing all the oppressors with cold salt. And his rebels rejoiced. They exclaimed, "Your dawn listens, my lord. Let all the Orbis know itself to be free. Mehrunes is come. There is no dominion save free will." And when Dagon's task was completed, he retreated to Oblivion, to the molten oceans of the Deadlands. But so long as power continued to pool together, so long as some mortals were more privileged than others, so long as rulers dictated laws and decrees, Dagon would always be watching intently, and his involvement in mortal politics did not die out like the Dread King's. In the First Era, when unrest simmered a little too close to the surface between the provinces of Cyrodiil and Resdain, Dagon was summoned by a spiteful witch and a scorned former spymaster of Vivec. The former wanted revenge upon the Duke of Mournhold, the latter wanted simply to see Morrowind suffer, and suffer it did. Mehrunes Dagon was not the kind of prince to engage in half measures. He levelled the city of Mournhold in one of the continent's most devastating attacks. It was the 12th of Sun's Dusk, in the year 2920. A gout of ever-erupting flame was all that remained of the central courtyard of Castle Mournhold, blasting skyward into the boiling clouds. A thick tarry smoke rolled through the streets, igniting everything that was wood or paper on fire. Winged bat-like creatures harried the citizens from their hiding places, out into the open, where they were met by the real army. The only thing that kept all of Mournhold from burning to the ground was the wet, sputtering blood of its people. Mehrunes Dagon smiled as he surveyed the castle crumbling. "To think I nearly didn't come," he said aloud, his voice booming over the chaos. "Imagine missing all this fun." His rampage was only stopped by the combined efforts of Sophasil and Almalexia. She was battling Mehrunes Dagon again amid a firestorm. All around her the blackened husk of a castle crumbled, splashing sparks into the night sky. The Daedra's claws dug into her belly, spreading poison through her veins while Almalexia throttled him. As she sank to the ground beside her defeated foe, she saw that the castle consumed by fire was not Castle Mournhold. It was the Imperial Palace. Whether related to Dagon's deed or not is irrelevant. The fact of the matter is that in the very same month, the last of Riemann Cyrodiil's lineage died, betrayed by the snake at his side, his Akaviri advisor. After being summoned, Dagon had destroyed Mournhold, slain the Duke of Morrowind, and indirectly ended the Cyrodiilic line. And this was not even the first time he'd attacked Morrowind. For some time in the First Era prior to this, Dagon had destroyed Ald-Sofa, the home of House Sofa, the birthplace of Sophasil. Mehrunes Dagon's next major revolt came in the 398th year of the Third Era, when he colluded with the usurper Jaeger Tharn by assaulting the Imperial Battle Spire, an academy used to train new battle mages. Dagon effectively crippled their ability to foil Tharn's plans. His most recent rebellion came in the 433rd year of the Third Era, an event that would live on in infamy as the Oblivion Crisis. With the help of the Mythic Dawn cult, Dagon's modern Red Legion, and their leader Mankar Cameron, the Prince of Revolution plotted to sever the barrier between Mundus and Oblivion. By assassinating the Emperor and darkening the Dragon Fires, his invasion was ready to begin. Portals called Oblivion Gates sprung up across Tamriel, and from the folds of writhing flame came hordes of bloodthirsty Daedra. On the brink of collapse, Mundus was saved by the illegitimate son of the former emperor, and by shattering the Amulet of Kings, summoning an avatar of Akatosh, Dagon's rebellion was quelled. But even as the jaws of the golden dragon locked around Dagon's neck, one thing was clear: this would not be the end of Mehrunes Dagon. He is the personification of change, and hope, and ambition, and destruction. And even if the Empire survived his onslaught to rule once more, no emperor could truly stop those inevitable forces. Before we continue to examine his sphere of influence, let's take a closer look at the prince himself, his depictions, realms, and artifacts. In almost all interpretations, Dagon has a demonic visage. He is covered in muscle, and one of his 4 arms always holds a double-bladed axe. His capacity for destruction is demonstrated by his domineering appearance and his choice of poses. His excess of arms is a symbol of rebellion, for when he liberates a civilization, tearing down the elite, he is called by his supporters Mehrunes, the red arms that went up. 4 powerful fists raised skyward to mark the success of his destructive insurrection. It's no surprise that many cultures perceive him as little more than a god of bloodshed and betrayal, but his sphere is far more complex than that. Dagon has 4 known artifacts. The first is the Daedric Crescent. There were once many crescents, and they were often wielded by formidable Dremora warriors enlisted in Dagon's revolts. However, when the Empire reclaimed the Imperial Battle Spire, the crescents were gathered up and destroyed, all but one. His next artifact, and the least known of the bunch, is the Sword of the Moon Reaver. A broadsword made of the prince's own substance, the Sword of the Moon Reaver is shrouded in mystery. All that is known about the artifact is that it was powerful enough to banish the prince during his invasion of the ruined academy. You may be surprised to hear that Dagon's 3rd artifact is not actually a weapon, and is rather a book, written by the Daedra Lord himself. This artifact is the Mysterium Xarxes. It is said that Dagon scribed it in the deserts of rust and wounds. It was an artifact of great and evil power. The book was dangerous to handle, as even reading from it required magical protection from its power. Dagon bestowed the artifact upon his prophet Mankar Cameron, and using the knowledge kept within, Mankar scribed the Mythic Dawn commentaries. The book was so powerful that it allowed Mankar to create the realm of Gaia Alata, or Paradise. This is where followers of the Mythic Dawn would go upon death, bypassing any other afterlives. The tome was destroyed during the Oblivion crisis, though one single charred page survived the ordeal. Dagon's final artifact is called Mehrunes Razor, and is often referred to as the Dagger of the Final Wounds, the Bane of the Righteous, or the Kingslayer. The ebony blade seems to act as a conduit for the Daedra Lord's will. Simply touching the edge of the dagger could result in death, as there is a small chance that Dagon will claim the souls of those struck by the razor. This means a wielder who understands Mehrunes Dagon and his motivations could kill their victims instantly. Dagon has one primary realm, as well as a couple of smaller realms associated with him. Firstly, you could argue that Mankar's Paradise is one of Dagon's realms, for it was made from the power of written word. Second, there's a realm called the Chimera of Desolation. This realm was once an isle off the coast of High Rock, called Sicily Island, but Dagon claimed it for his own as an act of revenge against a conjurer residing there. This conjurer was Chimera Greyjin, and he successfully tricked the prince. Even after Dagon had his vengeance, Chimera helped an apprentice battle mage foil the prince's invasion of the battle spire. As for the Deadlands, well, this is not a hospitable place. That much is clear to any mortal who sets foot in the realm. It is the topographic embodiment of Dagon's sphere. Natural disasters are as commonplace as the rains down in Argonia, and the abundance of volcanoes, the oceans of lava, and the prickly Dremora dwellers make for constant destructive change. His artifacts are among the most deadly in Oblivion. His realms are hellish, crafted from spite, fury, and destruction. And even Dagon himself is the very image of brutality. Yet as we've alluded to throughout the video, there is so much more to the Razor. The Magna Gi may have erred spectacularly when they created him, for he is far gone from the Prince of Good and the embodiment of hope they'd anticipated. But even still, there is no denying that these fundamental values still exist beneath his daunting exterior. If you were a citizen of the Empire and witnessed the grand-scale destruction that gripped the cities of Tamriel, well, it's not hard to see Dagon as pure evil. But it will always be a matter of perspective. Do you think the dregs of Lyg were any different? To us, it's easy to dehumanize such hideous crustaceans, but they were once an intelligent race, and no doubt, the passing of time has simplified their obviously complex society. It's easy to call the Dread Kings tyrants when there is no memory of their reign. But is it truly possible to rule without the support of the people? I'm sure the citizens of the Dread Kingdoms looked upon Dagon's Red Legions in terror, just as the people of Tamriel did during the Oblivion crisis. And if you think it is possible for tyrants to reign without the support of the people, well then, you've just proven how vital Dagon is to mortals. The difference between destruction and liberation is one of perspective. I believe Mehrunes Dagon is much less devious than he seems. Of course, Daedric motivations are always going to be somewhat alien to mortals, but I think Dagon is the powerful tool that can be utilised when the inevitable corruption of mortal leaders begins to fester. There are patterns in history, and the most pernicious of these patterns is the age-old tale of the ruler turned dictator. Like a weed, they never seem dangerous at first, but then they flourish, and the other plants begin to starve. How can a lowly plant ever hope for a fair share when the weed controls all the wealth, all the military power, all the influence? Well, that is a question that will always remain unanswered wherever men, mer and beastfolk live, be it in our universe or theirs. And that is where Mehrunes Dagon comes in. His might is the might of the helpless. With Dagon, collateral damage is assured, but insurgency will always bring destruction. The most important virtue of Dagon's existence is that he will always occupy some small recess in the minds of rulers. If you become too corrupt, if you lose the faith of your people, well, Mehrunes Dagon may just rear his big red head and stick you with his razor. Mehrunes Dagon is hope, and hope is the most powerful tool there is. There you have it guys, I hope you enjoyed my take on Mehrunes Dagon. With this particular prince I feel like I could have kept talking for hours, but I hope I managed to capture his essence well enough. Even in the conclusion I can't stop using the word hope. It's starting to sound weird to me. Thanks so much for watching guys, I've been Drew, and I hope to see you in the next video.